The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to today's role play session with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. And I'd like to start by welcoming our participants to our role play session here today. I want to take volunteers who would like to do some role playing with me. But before we do that, I'd like to get the juices flowing a little bit here by opening up a discussion about a particular element of the universal callback script or of the follow-up process in general. And I got an email it was probably on Monday or Tuesday, in regards to handling a couple of different objections. And so let me just address those first, and then if any of you can think of any additional objections that you would like me to weigh in on, you can type that into the chat, and I'd be more than happy to do that. But let me share with you what the two objections were. The first objection was this: they had someone who, upon hearing their introduction, they said, I didn't want a realtor calling me. Okay, so let's just go through this scenario. Hi, it's James with Craig Proctor at RE/MAX. I'm calling because I received your request on my website for the area home sales report. I just wanted to give you a quick call, let you know I did receive your request and I prepared and sent out the information. I hope that's okay. Prospect says, I didn't want a real estate agent to call me. How do you handle that? Remember this. It is imperative that we elicit a reaction of appreciation from the prospect, because if we don't, when we try to ask them some qualifying questions, we're going to get shut down. It's like a cold call. The reason we need to elicit a reaction of appreciation is because we need it to be clear we're not cold calling them. So when you call somebody cold who has in no way they've solicited this phone call, then it's hard for us to ask questions because they shut down. They say, no, not interested, go away. Sometimes they're a whole lot more rude than that, as most of us have experienced. So if the introduction didn't elicit a reaction of appreciation, then it's perfectly okay to restate it. Now, there are a couple of differences here. Okay, number one, if the prospect says, I wasn't expecting a call from a realtor, then Craig has talked about that a million times. Yes, I am. I'm James McDonald with RE/MAX Omega with Craig Proctor's office. It's an observation, but we're not talking about an observation here. We're talking about a prospect that said, I didn't want a realtor calling me. So what do you do in that circumstance? That's the difference here. Here's my suggestion. First of all, understand that this is the exception, not the rule. All right, so this isn't happening every time. And if it was, it's probably because you're not saying the introduction slowly and carefully enough. But here's my suggestion. What you want to do is restate the introduction, or at least the main points of the introduction. So prospect says to me, I didn't want a realtor calling me. I'd say, Mr. Smith, the only reason I was calling you is just as a courtesy. I simply wanted to let you know that your request on my website did not, go off into cyberspace. I actually did prepare the information of properties that you requested from me, and I emailed them out to you. I just hope that's okay. I am making it so damn impossible for that prospect to be anything other than appreciative. Okay, I'm going to restate the reason I'm calling. And if Mr. Smith, let's say, is still really, really rude, then you know what? The whole benefit of generating choice is that we don't have to talk to people that are rude, because there are plenty of others, the overwhelming majority, in fact, who are not rude, that we can move on to. So that's my suggestion as far as that objection is concerned. So let me just highlight that again. I go through the introduction, calling, let you know I received your request. I sent it out to you. I hope that's okay. I didn't want a realtor calling me. That's very different than, I didn't know a realtor was going to call me. Yep, I'm a realtor, James with Craig Proctor's office at RE/MAX. That's an observation. This is the objection. I didn't want a realtor calling me. Mr. Smith, the only reason I'm calling you is simply as a courtesy. I just wanted to let you know that, your request was received. It didn't get lost in cyberspace. And I did prepare the information that you were looking for in regards to those properties, and I emailed them out to you. Just wanted to make sure that was okay, Mr. Smith. It's impossible for him not to say thank you. Whereupon now I can say, by the way, you're thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months. You cannot determine timing and motivation with a prospect that is unappreciative of the information that you sent and prepared to them. If they think of you as a pest, as an annoyance, as a salesperson who is bothering them completely unsolicited, what you're going to find is that asking those probing questions is a complete waste of time. They're going to cut you off. They're going to end it. So it is imperative that we do a great job with that intro, even if that means restating or highlighting the benefits to make sure that the prospect appreciates it. Okay, appreciates it. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Next, the objection is this. I'm already getting properties emailed to me from Realtor.com or from whatever website. Okay, so here's the deal. I've made the offer and I've said, hey, you know what? Would you like me to email you every single day all of the best properties that perfectly match what you and your family are looking for from all the different real estate companies? But what I'm also going to include are the great deals that come on the market from time to time that match what you're looking for as well, like bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, distress sales. I just hiccuped, by the way. Don't do that to your prospect. Anything that represents a great deal that is hard to find and matches what you and your family are looking for, it's going to be sitting in your email inbox immediately. It's free. There's no obligation. Would that be of interest to you? Okay, there's my offer. Prospect says, you know what? I'm already getting properties emailed to me from a certain website or a couple of different websites. I've got it set up so that it automatically emails me when properties in my price range come up. How do you handle that? Here's the question I want to ask you. Could you offer them properties that they may not find on whatever website they're on? And could you also give them access to those properties more quickly? Now, when I pose that question to any of our members, they say, yes, I could. Well, then you've just given me your answer. Here's the deal. I'm not sure what properties you're getting from these websites or from whatever website you're on, but I do know this. I have access to the properties immediately upon coming on the market, and in some circumstances, Mr. Smith, before some properties are even available for sale on the MLS. So you're getting priority access before these other websites even know that these properties are available for sale. Not only that, but I'm also going to include properties that you won't find on every other website. Properties that maybe aren't in the mainstream, like private sales, pocket listings from other realtors in my office, probates, company-owned, pre-foreclosure properties, etc. There are other deals that you are not going to be privy to. Now, sometimes they represent a really great deal, which I'm assuming you're interested in. Would you be interested in receiving those kinds of properties more quickly as well? I'm not saying you need to stop doing what you're doing. I'm saying, would you be interested in those as well? Prospect says, yeah, okay. You know what? That does sound good. All right. When have you got 15 or 20 minutes so we can sit down together and do a really good, accurate job for you? What would you prefer? Days, evenings, weekends? Take about 15, 20 minutes. Prospect says, well, look, on these other websites, I didn't have to meet with you. I didn't have to meet with anyone. I just put in all my information and there it is. They say, well, with all due respect to those other websites and what they're providing you, I couldn't help but to notice that you responded to my ad offering additional properties that were appealing to you. If the properties that you were receiving from these websites or from this website was sufficient, you probably wouldn't have needed to be looking elsewhere for properties. It shows me that what you're receiving or what you're doing right now is insufficient in finding what you're looking for. Listen, I want to do a really good job for you, as I'm sure you'd like me to do. There is no cost. There's no obligation. Would you reconsider sitting down so we can do a really good job of understanding what you're looking for? It'd take about 15 or 20 minutes, but then I can be assured you're only getting the right properties. What would be a better fit for you? Something during the day, in the evenings? I'm certainly flexible. I am beating you over the head with a reasonable hammer. And here's the deal. If I have that conversation and the prospect still says no, I'm good. I know that I can't really do much better than that. And I think most of you are listening to this, this dialogue, and you're nodding your head saying, yeah, you can't do much better than that. I mean, I'm giving you every benefit reason in the world to want this, and I'm taking away any kind of objection or threat to it at all. So If a prospect declines at that point, then, all you can do is determine whether maybe a follow-up later on might be appropriate. And you can switch gears and suggest that. Would there be a better time when you might be a little bit closer to making your move where I could follow up with you? I've got information that I can send out to you in the meantime. Would that be okay? Yeah, sure. You can follow me later. Okay. When would be a good time when you might be close to making your move? I don't know. Call me in 2 weeks. Bingo. So we call back in a week. Maybe here's the deal. They're a CS type personality. And even though they're listening and they know in their head and their heart, it's like, yes, this makes total sense. Of course, this makes total sense. But my personality just won't allow me to venture out and say yes. So you can go down that road. And when you call them back next week, now this is the second time you've spoken with the prospect. Now, maybe making the same very reasonable offer gets you a more favorable result. All right. So anyway, there's some food for thought here this morning. Let's do some role playing or take any questions in regards to what I have talked about here this morning. And by the way, Andrea has pulled up here. She's found some of the typical objections that you might hear and put those up. So this is really, really helpful. I would suggest that everybody spend some time taking a look at these. See, here's the thing. In the universal script that Craig created, 90+% of the time, if you know the universal script inside and out, what you'll find is hearing objections becomes, more and more infrequent. And it's like the better you are at the script, the less objections you receive. But you still want to be well versed in handling objections when they come up. So the handling the objections is not part of the universal script. This is something separate that you need to really understand to really become an expert on. So here are some really good ideas as to how to handle them. All right, so let's do this. Having said that, you know what? I like to give this example, by the way, just before we move on. And some of you have heard this before, so I apologize. But I really like this this sort of comparison because it really is apropos to what we're talking about. Okay. The better you become with the universal script, the less likely the prospect will give you an objection because you're clear, you're concise, you're confident, you sound like an expert, you know what you're talking about. All of these things lead the prospect to want what you're offering. Right? The better you are with the universal script, the less likely it is that they're ever going to offer up any kind of objection. They will simply say yes. And we found this over and over and over again. The better you are, the less likely it is that you run into any kind of problems. But when you're new or if you're struggling with the universal script, that's when all of a sudden all of the objections come up. Here's how I liken this. If you've ever gone and watched stand-up comedians, all right. When you go and you watch a really good professional, stand-up comic, everybody in the crowd shuts their mouths, especially the people in the front row. They are petrified of, they would never heckle because they know that this comedian is so good that they would eat them alive and make them feel, pretty embarrassed because they're so good at what they do. They would never heckle, never, if you will, object. On the other hand, if you ever go to amateur night where people are, trying their hands at being a stand-up comic, which I can't imagine there's anything more difficult in this world to do, opposite. It's the opposite. You can read it all over their red blushing face that if anybody throws out an objection, it will mortify them and they are ill prepared for that. So what happens in return is everybody starts heckling because they're unafraid. They know. It's like, yeah, there's a direct correlation there. The better you are, the less likely it is you get an objection. The more amateurish you are, the more likely it is that people know that you can't handle it and that, So this is a way you've got to think of yourself, okay? We are going to become so good with this universal script, so well-versed, so confident in every single word that prospects are going to understand it, and there is going to be no objection. They're not going to object to the suggestions of the expert. That's the difference. All right. So, Andrea, having said that, let's get started here. And does anyone, first of all, have any questions about the objections that I discussed here this morning to start with?
Sarah typed in, how many times should I try to reach a prospect before I can archive them?
So how many times? Okay, so here's the deal. The number of leads you generate will dictate how frequently you can try to follow up with each prospect. All right. In other words, if somebody generated 10 leads a day, and every day you had 10 brand new leads, here's the rule. You're always going to start your follow-up process by following up with the newest lead first, which means the very first lead that you generated yesterday, you would have 20 people that you would follow up with first before you got to that person, right? Because you're always going to call the most recent lead first, so you can see clearly how the more leads you generate, the fewer times you would be able to attempt to reach any one given prospect. So if you're generating 1 or 2 leads a day, then you might be able to follow up with a prospect 5 to 10 times. But if you were generating a larger number of prospects, unless you had help in following up with the prospects, if you were doing it all by yourself, it would mean that you wouldn't be able to call back any one given prospect. You'd have too many, because every day you're adding 10 more prospects onto the pile. Eventually, a prospect that you generated last week, there's no way you'd be able to get to that person because you'd have dozens and dozens in front of them that you'd have to get to first. Okay, so bear that in mind. But here's the rule of thumb. And if you use this rule, then it'll automatically work itself out for you. And here's the rule. If you call the most recent leads first and work your way backwards, as long as you're spending sufficient time following up with your prospects, you'll very likely get to every prospect that you haven't been able to reach. You can attempt them 3, 4, 5 times. And that's really pretty reasonable. And here's the deal. Could you follow up with them more than that? You could, but here's the truth. If you haven't reached somebody after attempting them 5 times and you still are going to keep trying, it shows me that you might not be generating enough leads. Because really, after 5 attempts, you should have newer leads that are better, that are more cooperative, that you could spend your time with them instead of chasing your tail for the prospect that is clearly elusive. You know, but if we made the person that we can't reach the priority, and we said every day I'm going to get up in the morning and all I'm going to spend my day doing is I've got to get a hold of Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones responded to an ad 6 weeks ago, and I've been trying him every hour on the hour, every day for 6 weeks. And in doing so, I've neglected the newer prospects. I'm exaggerating, but you can see how, I wouldn't do that. Exactly. What you're going to do is every day you're going to always follow up with the newest leads first, the most recent lead. What is the lead that came in most recently? Not what was the first lead that I generated today. No, what was the most recent lead you generated today? You follow up with the most recent lead first, and you work your way backwards from that point in time, right? And if you do it that way, what you'll find is that the best leads will always be followed up with. And those that you've attempted on several occasions, eventually they're going to fall so far down in the pile that you're not going to be able to attempt them anymore. You're just physically not going to be able to get to them because the newer leads will have taken priority over those older leads. Now, here's the thing, though. I would recommend that you leave them in your database, because if they request additional information at some point in time, it would be nice for you to know who this person is and that you've attempted to reach them before on 6 different occasions and were unsuccessful. That would be helpful so that you don't frustrate yourself the next time when you try to reach them and it goes to voicemail again and you go through this process again. So there's an idea for you. Your database is capable of holding an unlimited number of prospects, so it's not like you need to purge it. That's unnecessary. All right. Who's next?
Our next guest would like to role play. Maria, Amen. Your mic is now open.
Hello, Maria.
Maria, say hello if you're...
Say hello, Maria. That's the start of a good role play.
Hello. Hi. Hi. Hello.
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 How are you, Maria?
Hi. I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not sure this role play is going to work, though, because I think there's a massive delay on our call here. I'm not sure what you're calling from. It sounds like maybe your computer.
I'm calling from my laptop, but I have My headset's on, so I don't know why that's not working.
Yeah, can you hear that, Andrea? It keeps cutting out.
It sounds like she's having wireless problems, Maria. If you're on wireless, that could cause audio issues.
All right, why don't we do this? We'll try, and if it cuts out, then we'll have to go on to the next one. But let's give it a shot at least, okay? So, ring, ring. Hello.
Yes. Hi. Hello.
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 You're calling me. What's up? Who's this?
Oh, yes. Hi. Hi, this is Maria calling from Remax. May I please speak to James?
I'm sorry. Who's this?
This is Maria. I'm calling from Remax. The reason I'm calling is because can I start again? Sorry, I'm just very nervous. I wasn't prepared.
Okay, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. It's all good.
Okay,
It's all good.
so I'll start again. Okay, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, may I speak to James, please?
This is James.
Hi, James. My name is Maria. I'm calling you from Remax First Choice, and I'm calling you because I received your request to search for homes for sale using our property search site at findnorthyorkregionhomes.com. And as a courtesy, James, I'm just calling to let you know that I have given you full access to search our site. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. And James, are you folks planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months?
I don't know. Maybe. We're just looking.
Okay. And James, do you currently rent or do you own your home?
No, we own.
Okay. And are you planning on staying in the area or moving out of the area?
Oh, no, we're looking to stay in the area just a little further south.
Okay. And if you were to move, when do you think that might be?
We might do it sometime in the fall. I don't know, maybe sooner. It depends. We're looking around right now, seeing what's out there, and then we'll make a decision.
James, let me ask you quickly. If you came across a perfect, beautiful home within your price range in a neighborhood that you're interested in, would you be willing to make a move sooner than later?
It would have to be pretty damn good. You know what? I don't know. I don't know. Even if the perfect home came up today, I don't think. It's a possibility, I suppose. But I don't know if we would do it today. But we would definitely consider it.
Okay. Do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right?
Not really. We did. We met a realtor at an open house a couple weeks ago, and they've since sent us some properties, and they offered to show us some properties that they sent as well. Other than that, no.
Okay, so you're not 100% committed to any particular agent.
No, we're not committed to anybody.
Okay. James, would you like me to email you daily updates of homes that would match your home buying criteria from all real estate companies? Our list will include any bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, or any distressed sale, even new construction or below market value homes. It's a free service, and of course, you're never obligated to buy a home from us. Would that interest you?
Yeah. No. So is that different than what I'm getting on your website?
What you're getting on our website is just a basic, screen flash of what the minimal amount of homes that you could possibly get. And with this access that I'm giving you, you will be able to search for homes for all kinds of homes, like I said, for any sort of bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, or any sort of distress sales. And like I said, homes that might not even be on MLS or accessible to you. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds great. And you said it's free?
Absolutely free and no obligation to you at all. And James, when do you think we can get together for maybe about 20 minutes? I can take down exactly what you're looking for. Evening, weekends, or during the days also work for me.
Probably this weekend we can do that. Probably this weekend, but I better check with my wife and make sure that the kids don't have soccer.
Fair enough. James, go ahead.
So no, I just was going to suggest maybe I talk to her and I can give you a shout back or something.
Sounds fair enough. James, while I have you on the phone, why don't I just book you an appointment tentatively, and you can speak with your wife this evening, and if the time works, then great, we will meet. If not, we can change the time. Does that sound fair, James?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Saturday at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock work for you?
Neither one. If we could do it Saturday sometime in the late morning, that would be much better.
Absolutely. I can put you on the schedule for about 11 a.m. Does that sound okay?
Yep, that's perfect.
And James, are you familiar with the Yonge and Steeles area?
Very.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a mall at the corner there.
That's correct.
Yes.
I can
On the southwest side, there's a big mall there. What's that mall called?
It's called the Center Point Mall. We're just inside the Center Point Mall. I will give you the detailed information via email, and they will include my phone number as well. So if you have any questions prior to our appointment, you can give me a call. I look forward to meeting with you, and we will see you on Saturday at 11 a.m.
Good stuff. Okay. So first of all, very good. I'll offer you a couple of little suggestions here. But this is the one thing that I want you to explore is that when the prospect owns their home, you might want to ask a couple of questions about that. Like, for example, you want to find out how motivated they are to sell their home, like sort of where they stand with that. Because very often the insight into when someone is going to buy is in the selling of their home, and the insight into the selling of their home is when they're going to buy. In other words, when we get a prospect that responds to a buyer offer, if they own a home, the best way to find out about their buying plan is to ask them about selling their home. And then the opposite is true. When you get a seller that responds, say, to an online home evaluation, you probe about what their buying plans are, and that's how you get insight into when they're going to be listing.
Yeah, I forgot to ask. Usually I get into that, like, do you want to sell first before you buy? And I totally missed that.
Yeah, and because here's why that may affect the outcome is because what you may have determined is that booking an appointment at my home would be a better idea.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, most of the appointments that I'm booking that are at the homes usually are a lot better than,
Right. Well, here's the one thing about booking it at their home is they're not going to not show up.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's some food for thought there. But here's what I think is more constructive to you than that. What you're doing when you're offering them to search on their own, okay, this is the differentiation when you're making the offer. So the objection I came up with, I said, hey, Maria, so is this different than what I'm getting on your website right now? Here's the way you want to state this, okay? What I've given you is access to search for properties that are available on the website. Unfortunately, that means you have to do the searching on your own, and it doesn't include all of the best deals necessarily. What I'm proposing is that rather than you searching, I'm going to automatically email you the properties directly to your email inbox as soon as they come on the market, including and especially the harder to find deals that you won't find elsewhere. You know, company-owned bank foreclosures, power of sale properties, company-owned pocket listings, anything, pre-listing properties, anything that represents a great deal that matches what you and your family are looking for. I'm not going to make you search for it. I'm going to send it to your email inbox immediately, and it'll happen automatically. It's free. There's no obligation. Would that be of interest to you, Maria?
Yes, that sounds great.
Here's the deal. I'm making it sound 1,000 times better than what I've given you access to now. And you have to. Because if you don't make it sound better, you know what I'm going to think? Yeah, you know what, Maria, I'm just going to stick with the searching on your website right now. And I'm just going to see how that goes. And then if I want some more properties, I'll call you.
Yeah.
Because that's what they think, right? They're like, yeah, no, I have properties here. I'm good. So this is good enough for now. What you've got to do is you've got to differentiate. You've got to make it sound two ways. Number one, you've got to make it sound like what they have access to now is really insufficient. And number two, what you're offering, if by declining what you're offering, they're missing out. It's obvious that they're missing out on the very, very best properties.
Yeah, that sounds.
So here's what you might want to do. This role play that you and I just did is being recorded. So that means that later on today or tomorrow, you can go back and you can listen to our little role play here, and maybe you can jot down some ideas and work those into your script when you're making this offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are the ads that prospects are responding to access the properties on your website? What ad how are you doing that? Is it through
I think
something?
CM's doing it through. There's a lot on ads that are coming through Google, and I think it's any sort of bank foreclosures. A lot of people are applying for bank foreclosures, and from our website, findnorthyorkregionhomes.com. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Hey, listen, you did a really great job, and keep it up and keep volunteering. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So with the appointments that I'm booking, we're the only two. There's two issues. The people that are meeting with us are happy with our service and whatnot. The only issue is that they're refusing to sign. And I don't know how I can go about maybe fixing that. And also people who are not showing or answering their phones after they do sign the contracts. So how do we fix that?
All right. Okay. So first of all, this is a little off the beaten track of what we're talking about. But let me just suggest this: the first Band-Aid, okay, and it is only a Band-Aid for the presentation, is to effectively articulate the benefits of a cancellation guarantee. Usually that is the solution to getting the contract signed. All right. It's a Band-Aid. In other words, if prospects aren't signing your contract, it's because your presentation isn't very good. Like that's the long and short of it. If your presentation was really good, then they would want to hire you for free. Think about it. They're hiring you for free. That's a pretty good deal, right? If they're saying, listen, I know you're free, but I don't even want to hire you for free, then that shows that the presentation is very good. What I'm suggesting is, in the interim, as a Band-Aid, while we work on your presentation, using a cancellation guarantee and articulating it effectively, it really handles any objection. Because what you're saying is this: look, the reason you wouldn't want to hire me is because you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake. You're going to lock yourself in to somebody who you don't know that might not be doing a very good job for you. So I want you to know that that's not a problem. Here's my cancellation guarantee. It says at any time you can cancel our agreement if I'm not doing a wonderful job for you. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to do a better than expected job for you. And if I don't, you can fire me. No strings attached, no consequences. Here's the cancellation guarantee. Now, the words you use then is, does that sound fair? To which they have to say, yes, it does sound fair. Then we use the VIP buyer agreement, and we say, this outlines all the benefits of working with me, including the cancellation agreement. Take a pen and circle anything that you have questions about. Of course, they won't have any questions about anything. Pen's in their hand. They sign the agreement. Now, but it's a Band-Aid. Honestly, your presentation should be so good that you don't need to sell them on hiring you for free. Right. So that's a longer conversation.
Right, exactly.
And something that can be worked on. And the next thing is this: once they sign the contract, you have to have in place, before they leave the office, you need to have in place a plan of what they're going to do next. Whether that means setting up some showings, picking out some properties to take a look at, whatever it is. But we're getting them signed to 6 to 12 month agreements. So if somebody says, look, I'm not going to be buying anything until the fall, then you can't get bent out of shape if it's June and you're worried that they're not calling, they're not calling you looking at properties. It's like they told you they're not buying anything till September or October. Yeah. Right? That's why we get them signed to a contract. It's because we can get them signed early. Right? You don't need, if somebody says, look, I am going to definitely buy a home in September, you don't have to say, okay, well, then I'll call you out in September. We can get them to sign a contract today so that we know in September we can help them and we can get paid. Exactly. That's the benefit of the president. So we can't get bent out of shape when in June they're not calling us to go look at properties that they're not going to buy. Yeah, we're cool with that. We have a contract. All right, great. Let's move on. Thank you so much, Maria. Good questions today. Helpful to everybody, I'm hoping.
Okay, our next few questions come in the form of chat. And a lot of our members were asking where I got the objection sheet from. And if you just look here, we'll go to the dashboard. It's right here on these little tabs, and it's the third tab down, buyer, seller, objections. You just click on it. It pops right up.
There it is.
Okay. So
right up there.
Next, we also have a few members who are asking about getting appointments to show up. They're getting a lot of reschedules and cancellations. How do they deal with that?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what. Obviously, this is more of a buyer issue than a seller. And the reason is because when you book an appointment at someone's home, it's far more likely the appointment happens than when you have asked the buyer to come in and meet with you. But I do want you to bear this in mind. The reason that Craig designed it so that the buyers come into the office is because it's a hoop that we have them jump through. In other words, we want the very best, the best of the best. And you would agree that somebody that would be willing to book an appointment at your office and keep the appointment is doing it because they're a pretty darn serious buyer, right? They're a really good prospect, and they're somebody that we'd like to have as a client. So bear that in mind. That's the reason that we do it this way. We want them to jump through that additional hoop to prove their worthiness of us. The downside is if we're not very good at making the offer and the prospect books the appointment and they don't show up, well, the problem is that we're wasting our time sitting there in the office, twiddling our thumbs, waiting for the appointment to show up. That's never going to happen. Here's the deal. You've got to separate the exception and the rule. And I discovered this a long time ago, and you've probably heard me suggest this. If this happens all the time, it's you. It's you. What you're saying is not compelling a prospect to want to meet with you. Even if they're saying yes to the appointment, it's just to get rid of you. They're not actually showing up to the appointments. If it's happening over and over and over again, clearly it's you. You're the common denominator. But if it's happening once in a while, if it's the exception to the rule, you've got to understand that what that means is they're filtering themselves out of the process. They're telling you that they're not really who you're looking for. They're not there yet. But let me give you some constructive advice in terms of getting the appointment to show up. Okay, first of all, if you make the offer sound really, really good, as I demonstrated with Maria earlier on, the prospect who's going to be buying a home worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, they want the very best opportunities in the marketplace. They want that. If they legitimately are going to be purchasing what is likely the largest investment of their lives, they want to know of all the opportunities that exist to them. They're not going to forego those opportunities. So it's up to us to make sure we've done a really good job of articulating that so that they go, yeah, that sounds awesome. They want what is awesome. So you've got to make sure they understand that. Then you've got to make the appointment sound easy and non-threatening. I'm not charging you any money. I'm not obligating you to buy anything. I just want to do a good job for you. Otherwise, I could be sending you properties that aren't right or missing out on the perfect home, right? So we first of all have to address the offer itself. Make sure that the offer sounds really good. And the next thing is this. Logistically, and Maria made a little bit of a mistake with this as well. You've got to let the prospect make themselves believe that they're the ones picking the time of the appointment, even though really you're the one who's sort of boxing them into a time frame that is close to now. So in other words, today is Thursday. I say to the prospect, what would be better for you, days, evenings, or weekends? And I say weekends because it's Thursday. I don't mind doing an appointment on Saturday. It's only 2 days away. So the prospect, but on Monday, you would never say weekends, because if on a Monday they say weekend, now all of a sudden you're 5 or 6 days away. Well, 5 or 6 days away, the appointment is far less likely to happen. Too far, too long from now. You need to do it more quickly. So today is Thursday. We say days, evenings, weekends. They say evenings. So I say, what's better, this evening or tomorrow evening? Tomorrow evening. What's better, early evening after 5 or later in the evening after 7:30? I make them feel like they're the ones picking the time. And it's easy to do that. If the appointment is booked close to now, it is far more likely to occur. If the appointment is far away from now, it is far less likely to occur. All you have to do to see that is exaggerate. Okay, here's the exaggeration. If I said to Mr. Smith, let's do our appointment, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, let's do it at noon, an hour from now. All right, that's scenario one. If I book an appointment and Mr. Smith agrees to meet with me 1 hour from now at my office, do you all agree that that's highly likely to happen? I have him on the phone. We agree we're going to meet in 1 hour at my office. It's far more likely to happen. Scenario number two, I say to Mr. Smith, when's a good time? And he says 6 months from now. I would like to meet with you on January the 3rd. How likely is that appointment going to take place on January the 3rd that we booked here today in June? And you're like, yeah, it's like a crapshoot. Probably not going to happen. Well, I know I'm exaggerating the point, but it's to show you that If the appointment is really close to now, it's probably going to happen. If it's really far away from now, it probably isn't. So we need to find the good balance. And the good balance is if you can book an appointment within 24 to 48 hours, it's probably going to happen. If it's further than that, it becomes less likely. But the one thing is true regardless. If you make the offer sound really, really attractive, the prospect will want it. And they will want to get it sooner rather than later. Great question. Who's next, Andrea?
I thought we could move back to some of our audio questions. We'll go to Mark Huntington. Your line is now open. Mark? Okay. We'll go on to Michael Garcia. Your line is open. Michael?
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, we're having some audio problems here today, aren't we?
I believe so. We will try one more time before we go back to chat. John Brackett, your line is open. John?
Yes, hi. James actually already answered it. I appreciate it, though.
Okay.
You're welcome. Thanks, John.
Okay. And we'll just go ahead and go back to some of our chat questions. This is Aaron. How do you recommend handling a prospect who, upon initial contact, is ready to go and seems to be super excited, then they don't answer your follow-up? And I believe you answered another question like this a little bit earlier. What do you do when they tell you they are no longer looking to purchase?
You ask them why. You ask them why. You're their realtor. Remember, if you're suggesting that they've hired you, they've signed a contract with you. So you need to probe. Yeah, you need to find out why. See, here's the thing. What if you found out that what happened to them was that their financing fell through? So here's my question. Their financing fell through, and somebody at their bank told them, yeah, you know what, you've got some problems here, and so we're not going to be able to help you. So I'm not prospect, and I'm thinking, well, I guess that's that. I knew it. Now you're thinking, but hang on, I could help you with that. I know of some lenders or mortgage brokers that would be able to procure a home loan for you. But if you never asked the question, you wouldn't know that. So they're walking around going, well, that's that. I guess we're going to be done for the next little while. Had they just told you what their deal was, you may have been able to help them. So the simple answer to your question is you should ask them why. Who's next?
Our next question comes from Guy. How many leads should you generate per day for one person to have a good flow?
I think you should generate 2 or 3 leads a day on average. If you generated 2 or 3 leads a day on average, that would be over 1,000 a year. And if you generated over 1,000 prospects a year, and you were going to work with anywhere, if you wanted to work with 20, 50, 100, 200, you would have way more than enough to choose from, that you would only work with the very best of the best. And that would be by generating 2 or 3 leads a day. And here's the truth. If you're doing 3 or 4 different marketing campaigns, generating 2 or 3 leads on average a day is pretty reasonable. But here's what I want you to consider. What if it was half that? If it was half that, you'd still be generating in the neighborhood of 500 to 550 prospects a year. If you wanted to work with 50 of those as clients, that would mean that 1 out of 10 leads that you generate would result in a signed contract. 1 in 10, that's it. That's not, that's pretty low. So you can see how a little goes a long way, but it's got to be consistent. But shoot for 2 to 3 leads a day, and you know that you'll have ample. But here's why I like 2 or 3 a day as well. It is manageable to follow up with 2 or 3 brand new leads every single day. In other words, no matter how busy you are, you will always be able to find time to follow up with 2 or 3 prospects that day who requested information from you. As opposed to when you generate 5, 10, 20, of which our members, do, all of a sudden what that means is now you can very easily get backlogged. And you can go days without being able to get to all of your prospects. You're generating too many, and you get that feeling of being overwhelmed, and that opens up a whole new can of worms as well. So anyway, that would be the best answer I could give to that question.
Okay, Patrick's asking, when a lead goes to voicemail when I call, what message should I leave?
You really shouldn't. The truth is that there is no message that's going to cause them to call you back, or at least not with any great consistency. Really what you're doing is you're saying this: hey, I know you saw this number appear on your phone on your caller display, and I know you're dying to know who it is. I'm a realtor, and I'd like to talk to you. So when I call back from this number, make sure you answer the phone, okay? Not. It's just, we've done this for a long, long time. And what we've discovered is a prospect is more likely to answer the phone when you don't leave a message than when you do. So could you leave a message? Yeah. And that might get X number of prospects to actually call you back. But what we found is when you call and don't leave a message, then when you call them back, they're more likely to answer the phone because they want to know who it is calling them than they are likely to call you back upon leaving a message. So you will hear Craig say this again and again and again for many, many years, and tens of thousands of follow-up calls that Craig himself made. He never left a voicemail message. So if this is Craig Proctor's system and you want to know, Craig Proctor, what did you do when you got voicemail? Craig Proctor's answer is, I did not leave a message. I hung up. I tried them again later. And you know what? When the same number appeared on their caller display, a local phone number, you know what they did? They answered it. They want to know who it was. And I don't leave a message, because if you leave a message, you tell them who it is. Now they don't answer the phone because they think, oh, this is a realtor selling me something. Anyway, so there you go. Next question.
Our next question from Mary. When you call a buyer lead, the lead tells you that they are meeting with another agent. How would you respond?
Are you 100% committed to working exclusively with that agent? That's the question. Listen, if they're meeting with realtors, does that show motivation? I say it sure does. It definitely does. It shows motivation. If they're meeting with other realtors, they are clearly in the process. You're as good or better than anyone that they could be meeting with. You know that. So you essentially want to throw your hat in the ring. It'd be like saying, yeah, we're interviewing agents. Would you like to be interviewed for the job of listing my property? Oh, nope. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Nope. Count me out of that. Of course you would. Yes, that's a good thing. It shows motivation. And here's the deal. You have a presentation. They don't. I don't care who you're up against. I'm going to play the odds here. Whatever realtor they're meeting with does not have a presentation that is going to rival yours. If it's a buyer, they don't even have a buyer presentation. If it's a listing, your listing presentation is going to run circles around their listing presentation. And you know that. The odds are overwhelmingly in your favor. So yes, of course you want to throw your hat in the ring. What you just want to determine is, are you 100% committed to working exclusively with them? To which they say no. Or they say, well, yeah, it's my brother-in-law. Well, guess what? They're going to use their brother-in-law. So that's good to know before you go wasting your time booking appointments with someone that's never going to use you. That would be a good question to ask. All right, let's keep going.
So how would you respond to when trying to reach people, but you're just not getting them? So should they keep on attempting to reach them? Should they send them emails? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, and it sounds like we're almost talking about two different things here. In other words, are we talking about clients that have already signed a contract? Because and this is why this is a different question, right? If we're talking about prospects that have requested information from us and now we're trying to follow up with them and they won't answer their phone, well, yeah, that's called normal. That is absolutely going to happen without any question at all. What we have to do, though, is make sure that we're trying to reach them. We're seeing if we can get different numbers. We're calling them from a local phone number, and we're generating leads every day so that no one prospect is going to break our business. There is no one single prospect that's going to kill us. If we're generating 2 or 3 leads a day, that's 1,000 a year. If you do not get a hold of 250 of them, that's okay. It still means you got a hold of 750 of them. So we're building this into the cake. Right? We understand, yeah, you're never going to reach everybody. As a matter of fact, if you're doing an awesome job, do you know you might ever speak to 70 to 80% of your prospects? If you're doing an amazing job, you will never, ever talk to 20 to 25% of the leads you generate. And that's if you're doing an amazing job. So we cannot get bent out of shape about the prospect that we're never ever going to reach. It's going to happen. But here's what we need to be measuring. We are going to be reaching the majority of the leads we generate. And as long as you're generating leads every day, it stops mattering. It stops being as big a concern. If you're only generating one lead every once in a while, then yeah, it's devastating. I got to reach that lead. It's my only lead. The idea is we want to make sure we're generating leads on a consistent, predictable basis. Even if it's a trickle, a couple of leads a day, it allows us to not have to reach everybody and still be very good. All right, good stuff, Andrea. Why don't we take a couple more chat questions or see if there's anybody that wants to do another role play.
Alexandra Drummond, your line is open. Alexandra?
Hi, do you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, James.
How are
Hi,
you?
Andrea. Good, how are you?
I'm excellent. What would you like to do today, Alexandra?
Okay, let's do the role play.
All right, let's do the role play. All right, so ring, hello.
Hi, is James there?
This is James.
Hi, James. This is Alexandra Germon with Coldwell Banker, and the reason I'm calling is because I received your request for the information you wanted, and I'm about to email it to you. Is that okay?
What information was that?
You requested a list of homes in Claremont area.
Oh, yes, okay, yeah. Okay, good, I'll look for that. Thank you.
Okay, and are you planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months?
If we find the right property, maybe.
Okay, and do you currently rent or do you own your own home?
We own.
Okay, and do you have to, okay, what is that? Do you have to sell your home first before you move, or you can?
Yeah, well, we're gonna look around and see what's out there first, and then we'll figure it out. But right now, we're just seeing what's available, what's out there, what appeals to us, and then we're very early in the process, so we're not gonna put our home on the market yet.
Okay, and are you planning on staying in the area or moving out of the area?
No, I'm looking in the area.
Okay.
Do you have included that on your website, areas that we're interested in?
Okay, so would you like me to email you daily updates of homes that match your home buying criteria from all real estate companies? Our list includes any bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, or other distressed sales. It's a free service, and of course, you are never obligated to buy a home. Would that interest you?
It would, but probably maybe a little bit down the road. Not right now. We're just going to get through the summer, and then we'll, maybe we'll get a little bit more serious about it in the in the late summer, early fall, sometime around September, something like that. Right now, you know what? Every once in a while we just look around. Once in a while we'll drive by a property that we like or something like that. But we're not really all that serious about it right now.
Okay, and would it be okay if I followed up with you at a later time?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Okay, and when do you think would be a good time for me to call you back?
Probably say by Labor Day, first week of September would probably be a better time.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you for taking my call, and I talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. So here's what I wanted. I wanted to encourage you to make me the follow-up offer. But here's what you might want to do. Instead of just saying, would it be all right if I followed up with you? What you might want to do is you want to say this. Would it be okay if I followed up with you and sent you my monthly newsletter?
Oh.
It's absolutely free, and I think you'll find it helpful because it includes all kinds of great tips on, an eventual move, preparing your home for sale, market conditions, stuff like that you'll find to be really informative and helpful just, while you're considering this over the upcoming few months. It's free, as I said. Would you like me to send you my monthly newsletter? I say, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Two things happen here. Two things happen here. One is you're eliciting a reaction of appreciation, right? It's now there's a much better chance that when I say, would it be okay if I gave you a call, that you're going to be much more open to that. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is this: if you call me back in August or September, and preferably sooner rather than later, here's the difference. Not only have you already had a phone conversation with me, but you've been sending me information. So really what you've been doing over time is you've been the provider of information to me. You haven't pressured me. You've been the provider of information. And what you're doing is you're establishing yourself as my realtor. Okay, that's really what you've been doing between now and when you speak to me later on at the end of the summer. What you're doing by having this conversation and by sending me this your newsletter and whatever other correspondence properties that you're sending, by doing that, what you're actually doing is you're establishing yourself as the provider of information. So here's the thing. If all other realtors are equal, you are not equal to them. You are operating a higher rung on the ladder in my mind as to who my realtor might be. I've got a realtor who's helping me, and that is you.
Okay.
And that's important. What's going to happen is when you follow up with me, in the middle of August, what you're going to find is I'm going to be much more open to talking to you now than some realtor that is talking to me for the very, very first time. So, but by offering and sending me your newsletter, that's what's causing that to happen. So make sure you do that.
Thanks, James. Okay.
Good job. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Andrea, thanks for your help today as well. Some really good questions today and some good role plays. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And that concludes our role play session for today. Andrea, thanks a lot.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful afternoon.